Chapter 4.4, Graphing a Function Rule. So this stuff we've already basically done with finding a pattern, but this is if I give you an equation, what should you do to solve? So what is the graph to the function? The first thing you always want to do is write a table. So I write my table, I'm going to have a spot for x, whoopsies, x, and then my second column, I'm going to actually write down my equation, y equals negative 2x plus 1. And then I'm going to write out a spot for my ordered pair. So the x's that you pick can just be random. I would try picking smaller numbers and some negative and positive. So I'm going to pick negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. I would always try to pick at least 3, if not more, numbers. So then your second column, if this is what my x is equal to, I want to plug that into my equation. So I'm going to have negative 2, and then I'm going to plug negative 2 in for x, plus 1. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, plus 1 is going to give me a negative or a positive 5. And then I'm going to write it as an ordered pair. My x was negative 2 and my y was 5. And I do that for every problem. So no matter what, my equation stays the same, except my x is different. So negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2, plus 1 would give me 3. And then my ordered pair would be negative 1, 3. If I plug 0 into my equation, negative 2 times 0 is going to be 0, plus 1 is 1. So that's going to be 0, 1. And then I plug 1 in. Negative 2 times 1 is going to give me negative 2, plus 1 is negative 1. So 1, negative 1. And then finally, if I plug 2 in, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, plus 1 would give me a negative 3. So that would be 2, negative 3. Once you have your table filled out, then you actually can graph. So here's my x and y coordinates. X is always left and right. Y is up and down. Going to the right is positive. Left is negative. Up is positive. Down is negative. So now I'm just going to plot all my points that I have. So I have negative 5. So you always want to start at the origin. And you have negative 2, so I go backwards 2, and I go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you plot your point. Then I go backwards 1, because it's negative 1, and up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then at 0, I go up 1. At 1, I go down negative 1. And at 2, I go down negative 2. And then you should be able to connect the dots on your graph. And whenever you have a function like this, that means it goes on forever. So you want to make sure to include your arrows at the end. Right now I want you to pause the video, yes, pause the video, and fill out a table and write a graph for the second equation. So when I made my table, I only picked 3 points, and I made sure that they were a multiple of 2. Why did I do that? Because of this 1/2. The reason I picked multiples of 2 is because when I multiply it by 1/2, I'm still going to get a whole number. So now I'm going to plot my points. So over to the left 2 and down 2 is my first point. 0, negative 1 is my second point. And 2, 0 is my third point. And I connect those points and make sure to write arrows at the end of my line. Now we're getting to a real world problem. It's saying my function is this right here. So now instead of using x and y, we have c and w. W represents the pounds, or the total weight, and c represents the concrete mixer, cubic feet of concrete. And the truck cannot exceed, so it cannot go over 200. So we're going to solve this in the same process, except now instead of having x, I'm going to have my c. And my W equation is going to go in the middle, 30,000. And then I'm still going to have my ordered pair, C, W. But when I pick my numbers here, I want to make sure to go all the way up to 200 because that's the highest that it can reach because it cannot go any higher than that. So I'm going to go and count up by 50. So I'm going to test 50, 0, 50, 100, 150, and 200. So when I plug this in, it'll be 146 times 0 plus 30,000. So that's going to be equal to 30,000. Right now I want you to pause the video and fill out the rest of the table by yourself. So these are the points that you should have came up with, and now I drew a graph, and make sure you label. So my y-axis would be my weight, so I labeled that, and then my x was my cubic feet of concrete. So my first point is 30,000. So I'm going to plot that point, and at 50 it was 37,000, so just a little up. At 100 it was 44,600, so really close to 45. At 150 it was 51,900. And at 200 it's 59, so really close to 60,000. So that would be a reasonable graph for this function. Make sure you fill out the Google Doc form and submit your answers.